There is a massive lie that has been sold to you. It is a comforting lie. It is a lie printed on motivational posters, repeated by financial gurus, and whispered by your family members when you tell them you're struggling. The lie is this: building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. It sounds wise, doesn't it? It implies that if you just take your time, if you just jog slowly, if you just save $5 here and $10 there, you will eventually cross the finish line. I am here to tell you that this is absolute nonsense. And if you are broke right now, believing this lie is dangerous. Because when you have $0 in your bank account, or worse, when you have negative dollars, you are not in a marathon. You are in a physics experiment. You are fighting a fundamental force of nature known as static friction. Let's look at the physics for a second. Imagine a car that is stalled on a flat road. It weighs 2 tons. You are standing behind it, trying to push. The hardest part of moving that car isn't keeping it rolling at 5 miles per hour. The hardest part is the first 3 inches. It's that agonizing moment where you are pushing with every ounce of strength you have, your feet are slipping in the mud, your veins are popping, and the car does not move a single millimeter. This is static friction. The energy required to move a stationary object is 10 times higher than the energy required to keep a moving object in motion. Right now, if you have less than $1,000 in your bank account, you are standing still. You are under the crushing weight of financial gravity. Every dollar you earn is not building wealth. It is being immediately devoured by the big three: rent, food, and interest. You aren't moving forward because the gravity of your situation is pulling you down harder than you can push up. If you try to marathon your way out of this, if you try to go slow, you will lose. The gravity will win. The car will roll back over you. Today, we are starting the money sprint. We are not jogging. We are not pacing ourselves. We are going to generate the explosive, temporary, and intense energy needed to break static friction and hit your first milestone, $10,000. Why 10,000? Because $10,000 is the escape velocity point. It is the exact moment where the laws of physics change. It is the moment where the car starts rolling on its own and you can finally stop pushing so hard and jump into the driver's seat. But before we can sprint, we have to understand why you failed every time you tried this before. And the answer isn't in your wallet. It's in your brain. Let me tell you about a study involving sugarcane farmers in India. This study changed everything we know about the psychology of money. These farmers are paid once a year, after the harvest. This means that for 1 month they are rich, but for the month before the harvest, they are dead broke. They are essentially the same people, with the same IQ, the same education, and the same personality. But researchers found something terrifying. When they tested the farmers' IQs during the month when they were broke, the farmers scored 14 points lower than they did when they had money. Let that sink in. 14 points. That is the difference between average intelligence and borderline deficient. It is the same cognitive drop you experience if you go 24 hours without sleep or if you are legally drunk. This is called the bandwidth tax. When you are worried about money, when you are calculating if you can afford gas or stressing about a late rent payment, your brain is running a background program that consumes 40% of your computing power. You aren't bad with money, you aren't stupid, you are simply trying to run complex financial software on a computer that has no RAM left. When you are in survival mode, your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that handles long-term planning, patience, and impulse control, literally shuts down. Your amygdala, the primitive lizard brain responsible for fight or flight, takes the wheel. This is why when you're broke, you make decisions that look dumb to wealthy people. You buy the lottery ticket. You grab the expensive fast food on the way home. You buy the new sneakers, even though you have debt. To an outsider, this looks like a lack of discipline. But to your brain, it's a survival mechanism. Your brain is in pain. It is exhausted from the stress. It screams for a hit of dopamine, a quick chemical release to numb the anxiety. Spending money is the anesthetic. So, step one of the money sprint is not making a budget. Step one is forgiving yourself. You have been operating with a cognitive handicap. But now that you know the handicap exists, we can hack it. We can build a system that works around your lizard brain rather than trying to fight it. There is another force keeping you at the starting line. It is the brutal economic reality that it is expensive to be poor. There is a famous theory about this, called the Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness. Imagine two men. One is rich, one is poor. The rich man buys a pair of high-quality work boots for $100. These boots are leather, double-stitched, and guaranteed to last for 10 years. The poor man cannot afford $100. He only has $20. So, he buys the cheap, cardboard-soled boots for $20. These boots fall apart in 6 months, so he buys another pair for $20. And another. And another. Over 10 years, the poor man spends $400 on boots, and he still has wet feet. The rich man spent $100 and still has dry feet. This isn't just a story about boots. This is your life. Because you have no savings, you pay a poor tax on everything. You pay late fees because your paycheck didn't hit in time. You pay overdraft fees, $35 because you bought a $4 coffee when you had $3 in the bank. You pay 24% interest on a credit card because you couldn't afford a $400 car repair, so now that repair costs you $900 over 2 years. The system is designed to penalize you for being at the start. It is like trying to run a race while someone is throwing rocks at your ankles. This is why the first $10,000 is the hardest money you will ever earn. You are earning it while the world is actively trying to take it back. Most people look at this reality and they give up. They say, the system is rigged. And they are right. The system is rigged. But you cannot sprint if you are playing the victim. We have to accept the rig. We have to accept that the first lap of this race is going to hurt. We have to accept that we are going to be uncomfortable, tired, and stressed. But we are doing it for a reason. We are doing it because once we hit $10,000, the poor tax disappears. The boots become affordable. The late fees vanish. We are sprinting towards the exit door of poverty. If the economy is the external enemy and your brain is the internal enemy, there is still one final boss you have to defeat before you can start running. And this one hurts the most. It's your friends. There is a concept in sociology called the crab bucket mentality. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it can easily climb out. It grabs the rim, pulls itself up, and walks away. But if you put 10 crabs in a bucket, the moment one tries to escape, the others will grab its legs and pull it back down. They aren't doing it to be malicious. They are doing it out of instinct. When you decide to start the money sprint, you are the crab reaching for the rim. You are signaling to everyone around you that the normal way of living, being broke, complaining about the economy, and living for the weekend, is no longer acceptable to you. Your discipline acts as a mirror to their lack of it. Your friends will say things like, "Come on, it's just one night out," or "You're being cheap," or "You're obsessed with money lately," or the worst one, "Must be nice." They aren't bad people. They are just terrified. They are terrified that if you escape the bucket, they will be left behind with no excuse. Here is the hard truth about the sprint to $10,000. It is a lonely road. To hit this goal in 12 months, you have to be willing to be the boring friend. You have to trade the dopamine of Friday night drinks for the dopamine of seeing your bank account grow. You will lose friends during this process. Let them go. The people who support your sprint are the ones who will be waiting for you at the finish line. The ones who try to pull you back down belong in the bucket. Once you accept that you might be running alone, we can finally talk about the mechanics. How do we actually get to $10,000? Let's look at the numbers. $10,000 feels like a mountain, but we are going to break it down into a staircase. To hit $10,000 in 1 year, you need to save $833 per month. For most people watching this, saving $800 a month feels impossible. You might be thinking, I barely have $50 left over at the end of the month. This is where we change the strategy. We stop focusing on saving and start focusing on the gap. The gap is the distance between your income and your expenses. To widen the gap to $833, you have two levers: defense and offense. Defense is cutting costs. Offense is increasing income. Most financial gurus focus on defense. They tell you to cut the Netflix, skip the latte, and eat rice and beans. And yes, you should do that. But defense has a mathematical floor. You can only cut your expenses to zero. You cannot save more than you earn. Offense, however, has no ceiling. This is the sprint part of the money sprint. For the next 12 months, you need to find an income accelerator. We are looking for ghost money. Ghost money is income that never touches your main checking account. It never sees the light of day. It goes directly from the source into your Sprint account. If you can cut your expenses by $233 a month, you still need $600. $600 a month is 3 Saturdays of overtime at your current job. It is 4 freelance gigs online. It is flipping 2 pieces of furniture a week on Marketplace. In the current economy, making an extra $600 is not a matter of ability. It is a matter of pride. You have to be willing to do the work that others think is beneath them. You have to be willing to walk dogs, clean garages, or drive a taxi on a Friday night while your friends are at the bar. Remember, it is temporary. You are not a dog walker, you are a sprinter who is funding their escape. We use the 80-10-10 rule during the sprint. 80% of your main income goes to survival. Rent, food, utilities. 10% goes to the anti-gravity shield, your first $1,000 emergency fund. And 10% goes to the debt killer, high-interest credit cards. And 100% of your ghost money goes to the $10,000 goal. When you combine a tight defense with an aggressive offense, $833 isn't just possible. It's inevitable. But I have to warn you about a trap. There is a specific point in the sprint where most people die. It happens at the $4,000 mark. At $4,000, you have more money than you've ever seen in your account. The static friction is broken. You aren't desperate anymore. The panic is gone. And this is where the danger sets in. This is the death valley of comfort. Your brain, which has been starving for dopamine for months, looks at that $4,000 and whispers, "Hey, we're doing great. You deserve a reward. Let's take a little vacation. Let's upgrade the car. Let's just spend $500. This is the middle-class trap. $4,000 is enough to feel safe, but not enough to be free. If you spend that money now, you are resetting the physics. You are stopping the car to get out and admire the view, and you will lose all your momentum. When you hit $4,000, you must develop wealth paranoia. You have to treat that money like it doesn't exist. It is not money for spending. It is soldiers for the war. If you can survive the temptation at $4,000, the run to $10,000 becomes easy. It's a downhill slide, and then, one random Tuesday morning, you log into your banking app, you rub your eyes, you look again. $10,000. The comma club. 5 figures. At this exact moment, the physics of your life change permanently. The bandwidth tax we talked about in the beginning, it evaporates. Your IQ literally jumps back up. You can breathe deeper. The colors in the room look brighter. $10,000 doesn't buy you a Lamborghini. It doesn't even buy you a house. So why is it so important? Because $10,000 buys you the power of no. When your toxic boss tells you to work late for free, you can say no, because you don't need this paycheck to survive the week. When your car breaks down, you don't have to beg a bank for a loan. You just write a check. When an opportunity comes along to invest in yourself, you can say yes. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the architect of your life. You have broken the laws of financial gravity. You have proven that you are not one of the crabs in the bucket. But listen to me closely. The race is not over. You have just finished the warm-up. You have built the foundation. Now, we have to build the skyscraper. The sprint to $10,000 was about discipline. The next sprint, the sprint to $100,000, is about leverage. The rules for the next race are completely different. The enemies are smarter, but so are you. If you made it this far, you are ready for the next level. Wipe your shoes off. Drink some water. The next sprint starts now. I'm Mark Fletcher, and this is the Money Sprint. Subscribe if you want to win. I'll see you at the finish line.